First, I want to talk about a security issue, and that is the continued deployment of both federal law enforcement and uniformed military in American streets. The president has tried to send about 7,000 uniformed military into our streets. Law enforcement are in major cities, as you know, like Chicago and Portland. And the president has been talking about his willingness to invoke something called the Insurrection Act that would allow uniformed military to act in law enforcement roles, something that's very different in American history. That means raids, arrest, detention, something that, again, to me, very much contravenes the spirit our founding fathers put in place on the role of the military in our cities. I want to talk about some of the risks of having federal law enforcement and uniformed military on the ground in our streets, particularly given most of them are not trained or trained well on basic police techniques. I'm very worried that we're going to have a violent incident, that law enforcement, uniformed military are going to overreact when communities start pushing, to see what's going on with one of their loved ones, and you could have violent incidents. We've already seen law enforcement drawing their weapons, hitting cars on the highway, just behavior that gives me pause and makes me concerned that we're going to see violence on the streets of our cities. In response to this very unusual move of putting law enforcement and uniformed military in the streets of our cities against the will of those states, I have put out a bill called the No Troops in Our Streets Act. And it basically says that, look, if the president is putting uniformed military out in the streets of our cities against the will of that state, Congress can vote to terminate that deployment. The bill also allows the president to surge resources to communities that are having issues with crime or violence in the form of extra support for local police departments, right? You can imagine that some of the local police departments in places like Chicago or Portland would be much happier to be able to hire new police officers, train them, support programs that help with violence reduction. If there's truly a problem on these streets, let's put law enforcement, local law enforcement, up to the task instead of putting in uniformed military against the will of those local states.